My marriage is over after only 7 months and I've decided to move on like it never happened. I, female 49, got legally married courthouse to my partner, I'm 48, in October of last year. It was a poor choice, but poor choices don't qualify for an annulment which would void the marriage like it never existed, and I filed for divorce in May. I'm hoping it's final after the 60-day waiting period, and the judge signs off, and that's that. Regardless of this legal issue of getting divorced, I've decided to move forward in my life like I never got married at all. It's my second marriage and I waited over 20 years to marry for true love, only to walk into one of the biggest dumpster fires possible. I married him because I loved him, I'm not sure what he did. We didn't live together first, which was my first mistake. I quickly realized he wasn't really in this with me, as he would kick me out anytime he was upset about anything, even silly things, because I own a home I could go back to. I'm at fault for moving back to his house when he would apologize, and there was a ton of other toxic garbage I won't bother getting into here. Let's just say this was not my best work as a thinking human, and I stayed 6 months too long and was wrong to marry him in the first place. He barely acted like a husband, and for this reason I think I have every right to move on like I was never married to him at all. I will never refer to him as my ex-husband, for example, or husband ever again. But if when I date again, I will of course mention that I was briefly married, so it's not like I'm hiding anything. It was completely false, the entire thing, completely false. Thoughts? Anyone else been in a short-term marriage you considered annulled like it never existed, even though legally you had to get a divorce?
AITAH for not telling my family. I got married until almost a year later. Throwaway account. All other info is accurate. To get right to the point, I 30F married my boyfriend, 30M of 3 years, in a courthouse wedding with one mutual friend as our witness. We had talked with our families about intentions to get married, but there was no formal engagement. They took it okay, I guess, and just asked me if I was sure, and if I saw him as a good lifelong partner, to which I said yes with no doubt in my mind. We had our share of reasons to do a civil ceremony. Money. Neither of us liked to be the center of attention. Life was just too busy to plan a wedding, and we didn't want to wait an undetermined amount of time to be married. So we got all dressed up together, went out to a beautiful dinner together, met our friend at the courthouse, and left married with rings we got off of Amazon. We loved it. After we were married, we told a few friends, but kept it very private. We do fully intend on having a ceremony when the time is right, complete with a proposal, new rings, and lots of family touches that have already been planned in an extensive notes app list. Like I said, we had been together for 3 years and both knew before the year mark that we wanted to be married. My family liked him enough, they weren't dying for him to propose or anything, but I was happy and healthy, and they knew that. I have a few bad choices in my history, but then again most people do. So it took my family a minute to warm up, just because they were very wary and want the best for me. Here's the asshole part, we didn't tell my family for almost a year about the wedding. We are a small family and love to spend time together, but don't communicate all that well. I don't ever remember gossiping with my family or even asking uncomfortable questions like how do I shave my legs. I used books and the internet for it, frankly. I've usually been the source of family drama, so I wasn't looking forward to adding more episodes to my soap opera. I kept putting off telling them out of fear, and they tend to be judgmental without even realizing it, which is the worst part. So I just kept procrastinating, and then I grew to like having my little secret and being privately married. We didn't change how we acted with my family, still stopped by 4 cookouts, talked normally, etc., and just didn't wear rings around them. Once I finally sat them down and told them we had news, we told them we got married, and they were all smiles and hugs and congrats. I was shocked it went so well, and even told them that, sharing that I was so anxious. I thought we were good, and I could now be happily married, publicly. Turns out I was wrong. A couple of days after telling them, I got weird vibes and phone calls were short and awkward, so I just asked if anything was wrong. Turns out my family was incredibly hurt by me not telling them for so long, and they all kinda blew up at me, and now everything feels off. I thought I could close the chapter on being the family drama and be seen as an adult with my own family now, but I just feel like a kid again who got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Looking at it from a parent's point of view, I can see the hurt, and I do understand them being hurt. I'm not trying to say they're assholes for being hurt, but I just wish they could see that their judgment and treatment of me was part of why I didn't tell them. They are also the first to criticize other parents for making things about them that should be about the kids. But then pull this, if it were me, I would be hurt but question inwardly and handle my hurt on my own instead of putting it on my daughter and souring something she's so happy about. So, am I the asshole for not telling my family sooner? And I'd welcome any advice to help move forward with my family. I sat down with my parents and told them some of my reasoning, but it got heated and unproductive. Happy to answer any context questions to clarify. We live in the US, in a pretty progressive area of a southern state, and don't really hold religious views about marriage. Edit. I think AITA may not have been the best question for this, because I am aware that I hurt them intentional or not. I'm more after any insight or advice on what I can do to help rebuild from this, obviously knowing that I can't go back and change it. I did an in-person apology, but I am open to ideas further. Update. I wasn't expecting to be able to give an update so soon, but I have no complaints. This all went down really a week ago. To sum it up, I decided to take a leap and stop by my parents today, and called my siblings to just apologize and ask if we could talk about it more all together. I didn't try to defend anything. I acknowledged they were hurt and apologized for causing that hurt with my actions. We agreed to get together at my parents' house because we all live within 20 minutes driving distance. We just got back from this. I told everyone what my reasons were for having it go down the way it did. After that, I offered to just listen to whatever they had to say and keep going without getting defensive, which we did. In the end, we had a great talk about where everyone had fault in a decision that really wasn't good for anyone. I hurt them undeniably, and I was hurt from the months of anxiety and the aftermath as well. Nobody really cared about not being at the courthouse or involved in the day at all, especially knowing that I still want a celebration. It really was the time that I let lapse. That's when we discussed that we really don't know how to all effectively communicate as adult kids, and even our parents recognize the tension communication has caused in their marriage. So yeah, I was an asshole for taking 7.5 months to tell them. Terrible call, but the call had some reason behind it. Maybe not good, but still valid. We all agreed that we'd try to learn to communicate better in our own ways, and that with time the hurt would be gone, and in the meantime, we can move on. They are happy for us and our marriage, and we ended with hugs. Felt like a very full house. The audience track goes on ending that I'm not mad about. Also, if anyone was wondering where my husband was in all this, he was on the right side. On board with doing things privately at first, but encouraging me to tell them much sooner than I did. However, I kept pushing back, and he wasn't going to do this behind my back, especially to my side of the family, which I appreciate. And he did tell my dad beforehand, respectfully, that he intended to marry me. Some might think he should have done it anyway, or pushed me harder, but I'm glad he didn't, because I don't think we would have made progress as a whole family if things played out differently.
AITA for reminding my mom that she hadn't given me gifts for my birthdays in over 10 years. I apologize in advance if there are errors in the text. English is not my native language. I, female 29, have a very complicated and confusing relationship with my mother. Like every child, I wanted my mother to love me and take care of me. But everything that I learned in my life, my mother takes care only of herself and chooses the position of victim in any situation. It wasn't until I went to therapy a year ago that I found out my mother was a narcissist, and that all my attempts to earn her love would never work. All my life I thought that I was not worthy of love. Only if I did something good I'll be useful, and then perhaps somebody could love me. At the age of 19, I moved to another country my mother made me because my own father, who was also 100% a narcissist, promised her that he would take care of me. But my life became even more hell, and sometimes it was so bad that I could practically eat nothing for 1.5 months. I drank only water and tried to figure out how to extend one pack of pasta for 2 weeks. At that time, my mother knew about my situation and did not help me in any way. She spoke to me on the phone, knew that I was fainting from not eating anything, and she just said that everything would work out. She never offered her help, only spoke to me on the phone and told me how bad she was living. My childhood could not be called rosy. When I was 2 years old, my parents broke up and my mother began dating an alcoholic when I was 6 years old. All my childhood passed in fights between them. They constantly yelled at me too. My mother constantly involved me in their scandals and forced me to beg my stepfather not to drink. Of course, this did not work, and I spent all my time protecting my mother from my stepfather and his beatings. To be honest, it seems to me that my whole life was just a shell, where I could not understand who I really was, and when I moved, then after only 3 years I managed to get on my feet, start making money, support myself, and find friends. But all this time I still tried to earn my mother's love, although in my entire life she never said to me, "I love you." And for her every birthday, after I started working, I asked my best friend, because she lived 15 minutes from my mom's house, if she can pass on gifts to my mother. I bought cards, clothes, huge bouquets of flowers, money, to make her feel good. Stepfather always ruined birthdays for her alcoholic. Yeah, so she just accepted my gifts and then said to him I need to be treated like this, just to humiliate him. And in all the 10 years that I left, my mother never once gave me a single gift for my birthday. I'm not saying that I need something expensive, just at least a small thing, even just a postcard, to show that she cares. And a couple of weeks ago it was my birthday, and of course she didn't give me anything again. And yesterday she touched on this very topic of gifts, and I told her that she had not given me anything for more than 10 years for my birthday, and this is very sad actually. That every child wants some kind of attention from their parents on their birthday. And she told me that I humiliate her by specifically reminding her of this, and that I am very evil and I hate her. So I taught for reminding my mother that she hadn't given me gifts for my birthdays in over 10 years.
I blocked my brother after he chose his girlfriend over his own family. I am currently 21, the oldest of 2 siblings, my brother 20, and my sister 18. My brother has been with his girlfriend 20 for a couple of years. The first time his girlfriend wanted to fight me was when I unintentionally said something offensive out of context. That day, I had to sleep in the living room because they used my room. I was in the living room wearing only a t-shirt with no shorts when my brother came out to get his sock from the microwave. I asked if his girlfriend knew he was out, which I thought was just a question, but it turned out to be offensive. Due to my autism and processing disability, I struggled to understand the situation and answer appropriately. Fast forward to 2024, the year that my sister graduated from high school and finally got her diploma. Before her graduation, I found out that my brother decided not to go because of his girlfriend. I couldn't believe he would choose her over family. I never do that, but in my relationship, I finally understood it when I realized his girlfriend wants to start drama all the time. It's completely hurting my family, including my parents. My parents did everything in their power to make sure that my brother has everything, but obviously, he likes to take everything that happened for granted. He was ungrateful and didn't appreciate that my parents couldn't have sent him any money. My sister and I could finally understand, but my brother couldn't. Fast forward to the end of my sister's graduation, my brother decided to text him with a bunch of hurtful words that hurt my feelings. I tried to explain how I felt, but he didn't want to listen. My whole family blocked him. Was I in the wrong? I blocked my brother after he chose his girlfriend over his own family. I am currently 21, the oldest of 2 siblings, my brother 20, and my sister 18. My brother has been with his girlfriend 20 for a couple of years. The first time his girlfriend wanted to fight me was when I unintentionally said something offensive out of context. That day, I had to sleep in the living room because they used my room. I was in the living room wearing only a t-shirt with no shorts when my brother came out to get his sock from the microwave. I asked if his girlfriend knew he was out, which I thought was just a question, but it turned out to be offensive. Due to my autism and processing disability, I struggled to understand the situation and answer appropriately. Fast forward to 2024, the year that my sister graduated from high school and finally got her diploma. Boyfriend says I'm too close with my mom, so I broke up with him on the spot. Me 25 female and boyfriend 26 male and I have been together for 2 years. We are very close and have talked about our future, moving in together, if we want kids, what we want to do career-wise. We both are currently in university. I am pursuing a PhD and he is pursuing a bachelor's, as he is also in the military. Because of him being in the military and also going to university, he is pretty busy and has already been on to deployments of 10 months each. Granted that those aren't terribly long in comparison to many others. I am in uni full-time, and also have a full-time job, so am also busy, but not in the same capacity as him. We both have met each other's parents countless times, and everything seemed to be going flawlessly, or so I thought. 2 weeks ago I went to my parents on scheduled leave as I was getting my IUD change and needed to recover after that, as I get put under for it due to endo, so they also remove any lesions or growth. They offered to have me over and I said yes, because it meant home-cooked meals. I live on campus at my uni, as it is cheaper than renting an apartment in the area, so I eat on campus the majority of the time since it's included in my tuition, for days into my 2-week leave. My boyfriend asked to stay a few days, as he had the week off and wanted to spend time with me and my parents. They said of course, and I of course did too. He came over and everything was fine until the 2 days later. My mom and I are very close, as in, no topics are off limits close. To keep it brief, we talk about literally everything, including very personal things like medical issues and explicit topics. I know explicit topics may raise some red flags, but let me explain, as it was what caused the issue with my boyfriend. So bear with me, and this might get a bit personal, but I will try to keep it clear but controlled. As I said, I recently got my ad replaced. I've had one since I was an early teen, but this time I changed brands as the previous one started to give me issues. I was sitting at the island in our kitchen while my mom was washing dishes at the sink. She had asked how I was doing with the new brand and eyed insertion, and I told her how my outer region is super sore and hurts worse when I stand, and that it feels like someone is pummeling my cervix. She nodded and sympathized with me, and mentioned that I shouldn't make it worse and to keep my hoo-ha off limits until the 6-week mark, which is when my doctor said that things can enter it again. I laughed and she continued with telling me how when she gave birth to my brother, who was quite the large baby, she needed stitches and, she said, how my dad was forbidden from entering her child portal until she was ready. This isn't even the worst conversation we have had, but I digress. My boyfriend was apparently in the next room within earshot. I didn't know this, as he said he had to go out and pick up a package from an Amazon locker at Walmart, so I guess he got back and then sat down in the living room. My mom's and I conversation changed subjects because I had forgotten to ask her about a recipe I wanted, but after about 30 minutes ended and so I got up and went to the living room to wait for my boyfriend, but as I mentioned he was already there. He looked appalled and asked to talk to me outside. He told me how it was disgusting that I was talked about my private area with my mom. And it was even more disgusting that she told me about her and my dad's situation after the birth of my brother. He told me that he can't look at me the same now knowing that my mom knows all of my business and that she should be, verbatim, on a registry or list or something because that's ***king disgusting and inappropriate. I told him that since he feels that way, he doesn't have to ever see her again, because we are done. He didn't say anything and left. Ever since then, he has been blowing up my phone apologizing and asking if we can talk, if he can have another chance, and that he wishes he had never said what he did. Now I know that not everyone has a good relationship with their mom, and that not everyone who does is this close with her. We are close enough that if anything ever did cross a line, we would make it known. I also note that some people may take us talking about our genitals in a weird way, that everyone has them. And it's not weird or gross to us, so we aren't embarrassed to talk about our struggles, especially as women. I'm not judging anyone who isn't comfortable with talking about that, so please don't judge me for being comfortable with it. I don't expect everyone to be on my side, because I do realize our closeness is probably abnormal, as I have been told that many times. That a lot of the friends in our friend group have been bombarding me with texts about how I was cold and insensitive for immediately breaking up with him on the spot. I would have been fine with his stance if he had just approached it politely or probably literally any other way, and he did, considering he said my mother should be on a registry or a list. I mentioned that to our friends and they all say that he was just caught off guard and that anyone would have reacted emotionally in his situation. Two of our friends are on my side and say that they would have done the same. Am I wrong for breaking up with him? I am about 90% convinced that I did nothing wrong, but that 10% has been in the front of my mind for a while. Any advice or thoughts are appreciated. Edit. I thought it was implied, so I apologize for not being clear about this. He knew my mom and I were close. To quote one of my replies to a comment, he single quotes heard me talk about personal things with her before. For example, about a month before the AITA conversation, I talked to her on the phone about my wild bowel movements and issues with my colon thanks to the AITA while we were sitting in my dorm. Granted, this is the first time he's firsthand heard me talk about reproductive issues. I've mentioned to him before how I've talked to her about things like my period and other health problems, but this is the first time he has heard a conversation in person.
Boyfriend's dad keeps hitting on me, so I 26 female feel disturbed by this because I want to tell my boyfriend, but if I should. I was home with his dad 6 a.m. all day while my boyfriend was at work because his dad asked if I would help him with running some errands. Side note, his wife passed away like a month ago, so he's been trying to figure out the house stuff, and me being nice and trying to show I can be a good future wife for his son said yes. But then his dad starts saying I remind him a lot of his wife character, which is cool 'cause I guess that a good thing. But then he also says I remind him of her physically and proceeds to ask me if I would shower with him and we can keep it between us. I just laughed it off and said no because I honestly felt so uncomfortable at that moment I didn't know what to say. I thought he was joking, but he was so serious. I kinda want to tell my boyfriend, but I don't want to start problems. What should I do?